Hello, folks. Welcome to Business Spotlight. You know, it's often said that people are a business's most important asset, but so many business owners get the way that they look after their people so wrong. My next guest is somebody who's got more than 20 years experience in HR, both in a corporate world and running her own HR consultancy now as well. I'm absolutely delighted today to be joined by my guest, Rachel Collar. It's brilliant to see you. Thank you so much for joining. Rachel, tell us, let's get straight into it. Can you share us the journey about how you started your business? Tell us your background and tell us about how you got into HR.
Pre-pandemic, I was HR director at Mercedes-Benz Trucks in Milton Keynes, and then my husband went and had a heart attack on me during the COVID pandemic. He's absolutely fine now, but it was that trigger of, my God, what is life about? Do I want to continue working in the corporate world for another 20 years, or do I want to do something different? And I'd always had this kind of pipe dream that I wanted to run my own business one day, but always found a reason to put it off. And I thought, actually, now life is too short, not stop putting things off, actually grab things by bull by the horn and just go for it. And that led to me launching the House of HR back in September 2021.
You've gone off on this entrepreneurial journey, Rachel, and you had that kind of big shock with your husband as well. What have been some of the biggest challenges you've faced since you started your business, and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, I would actually say one of the biggest one was unraveling this undercover world of networking. In the corporate world, you don't know it exists. You go to maybe some professional body networking events or an industry award, but actually knowing the networking of a world that exists running your own business. I remember turning up, well, when I started, it was all still online. So there was no face-to-face networking, which was another part of a challenge. But certainly for me, it was suddenly, you've got to do a 45-second pitch. I hadn't even prepared for that. I just thought, we'd just be having a chat, be quite informal, not realising that I'd have to have a pitch prepared. But quickly, I kind of got my head around it, what I needed to do, how to present, how to get the best out of network. Also, being always surrounded by the experts in the corporate world. You had a marketing department, an IT department, and realising that now was me, and definitely sort of pushing my skill limit beyond its boundaries. And through networking, finding actually those people that would be your corporate department or your team around you, but in just a different way.
You've got a great brand, Rachel. House of HR is quite unusual. What strategies have you used to build great customer relationships and to establish your brand in your marketplace?
For me, the idea is that everything is under one roof, hence the house and different rooms. So I think for me, yes, if you're a startup business and you want the basics in place and the foundation of your house, your business, then absolutely contracts and employee handbooks, those sorts of things to get you in the right place from the outset. I think I learned very early on when I worked with Accenture that not everyone wants to buy a full package of services. And I think, and that was, 23 years ago, I learned that in the HR outsourcing world, and very much applied that to running my own business, that sometimes people maybe do want everything. So I offer that as a HR retainer service where you have me on hand via email, phone to give you that HR guidance and support as you would with a HR person that would be in your department, alongside those that might just need a helping hand with recruitment, those that are looking to develop wellbeing strategies for their employees, or those that want to do some really great work around developing their employees, as well as kind of engagement, kind of get that sense check of, are our employees happy? If they're not, what are we not doing right, and how do we fix that?
When you kind of strip it right back, at the core of HR, it's about rules and regulations, right? But how do you foster innovation and creativity to bring that to life in your business?
Regulations make it quite difficult in HR for us to sometimes be creative and innovative, but definitely around the regulation side, absolutely. I think for me, it's having a very commercial mindset. That's how I've always worked throughout my career, in terms of, what sometimes are the best commercial decisions, or the decisions actually for that person, that individual that's going to be impacted by a business decision. But certainly there's things, in terms of employee engagement, wellbeing, development, that's the fun stuff where, HR really adds value to the business, where, it's really hard to get people into the business in the first place in hiring them. So we can do a lot of fun stuff around actually how do you keep your people, really some fun initiatives around wellbeing and engagement especially can help. So it's not all regulation and HR policies.
It's never a straight journey, right? It's never a bed of roses. Although we kind of, a lot of people think that that's what entrepreneurship is. You kind of just go straight from A to B. As we know, there's a lot of kind of wiggle room along the way, right? Has there been a pivotal moment or a decision that's impacted on the growth of the business as you've gone along?
Definitely for me, it's been award success. I think, I'm always looking at ways to market my business, show my credibility. In the corporate world, I have to be a chartered fellow of my professional body, the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development, the CIPD as we call it. And I would not be able to get most of my jobs in the corporate world if I didn't have that accreditation. That means nothing to a small business owner. So it's been, how do I create that credibility in this world? How do people know that they're buying from somebody who knows what they're talking about and has got the credibility behind it? So definitely for me, it's been be able to get that recognition from peers in other industry and people that don't know me, external people, different parts of the country, actually recognising the work that I've done in the past 20 months and ultimately winning this year the HR Consultancy of the Year East Midlands in the UK Enterprise Awards.
What a great achievement. Congratulations. Well done. But I'm sure it's not all. It's there's inevitably setbacks, right, along the way. How do you handle failure, Rachel? What lessons have you learned from failure, and how do you move forwards from it?
I've got an attitude of try everything once, and you're not always going to be successful. Everything you try once. So for me, I'll throw something at it, and if it doesn't work, absolutely know when to give up. There's always opportunities to learn. So how could I have done that differently? Do I do it even ever again? Or do I do it a different way? Or do I get different people's views on it as to whether I should do something like that again or not? So definitely for me, I've come from a culture where, you always kind of seek feedback, especially, kind of employees in 3 to 60 feedback from people. How could I do something differently, but not just from my own viewpoint, but for that from others, both strategic partners and clients as well.
You're a very busy entrepreneur. You're a very busy wife. How do you keep all of that in check? How do you manage the so-called work-life balance, and what strategies do you use to avoid burnout?
It's a question that I get asked lots by people of how would you do everything that you do? Because not only did I decide to run my own business, I'm a trustee of a local charity to me on the board there. I'm also a non-executive director at the Northamptonshire Milton Keynes Chamber of Commerce, and I do a lot of other charity work behind the scenes as well. I'm an enterprise advisor with Semler. A lot of things, it's about that managing your time effectively. So a big thing for me when I left the corporate world was for me to manage my diary, it not to manage me. And I think that took a long time for me to get to that place. And having that, allowing myself my thinking times, my maybe a early Friday afternoon finish, which I never ever got in the corporate world. So some of those treats and rewards along the way, having some clear boundaries around kind of what that working day is and what it looks like, and limiting some of those activities. Or the big thing I've kind of learned this year more so is saying no to things. I like to get involved. I like to do a lot of activities, but I've had to get tougher about when there's been opportunities come up thinking, I just don't generally have the time, or I don't think I'm going to be able to give it the time it deserves.
The business is going extremely well. Can you share with the audience a little bit about some of the growth strategies that you've used? What's working well for you and your business?
Well, definitely, and from the outset and still to this very day, is networking. I don't think underestimate the power of networking. And for me, building that networking tribe, so those like-minded individuals. In a corporate world, you can't necessarily always pick the people that you work with or surrounded with, especially in other departments. But in this world, you absolutely can. If there's people that aren't your cheerleaders along the way, well, why are you still carrying them along with you? So that for me has been quite liberating and very, very different from the corporate world that I've come from, reacting to what's happening in the world that surrounds us at the moment. So lots of work around, people looking at getting their ducks in a row when it comes to making sure they're compliant when growing their employees. People want to do the right thing from the very outset. So working with startups very early along is really helpful in terms of them getting to know your style, your approach to HR. And then when they've got all those things in place, they tend to then come back to you to sound out other ideas. And the other one I would say for me is definitely from that networking is the strategic partners. So for me, typically it's kind of accountants, it's lawyers, IT, marketing, people that would have been those support functions that I would have worked quite closely with in health and safety in the corporate world. They are my great strategic partners for this world too.
You've talked a lot about networking and strategic partners. Relationships are clearly important to you. Tell me a little bit more about that? What role have relationships and building great relationships played in your entrepreneurial journey?
I don't think I'd be sitting here now if I hadn't made an effort with that. I've encountered so many people that will just give up their time to help you. Everyone has a journey and a story that attaches with that. So you automatically, in the small business world, you already connect on that level. And I think for me, just don't underestimate the people you connect with along that networking journey of what doors they can actually open for you as well.
You're in a fast moving world, it's constantly changing in terms of the rules and regulations when it comes to people. How do you stay up to date with the latest trends, the latest developments, the latest technologies, the latest rules and regulations?
A number of different ways. So my professional body, always been updated through bulletins, emails, seminars, webinars, you name it, almost they come through daily, opportunities to network, as well as I also network with other HR consultants, particularly in my local region. Our professional body has a network that we meet on a monthly basis. So we share a lot of our worries, woes, and latest developments in that network as well as lots of reading. So I love good case law, employment case law. So that's kind of my geeky side from probably my student days, and always looking to see, what's best practice out there at the moment, what are the latest trends. So I work with a lot of partner organisations that have access to the latest technology that I can't. So things like HR software systems, recruitment systems, wellbeing programs, access to financial wellbeing platforms, benefits. I've got a really great network of partners that I work with that can tap in. And to be fair, I've been very careful how I've selected them. They are all have a focus of supporting the SME world. So they're not over complicated systems. They're not budget busting. And most of them offer free trials beyond a month usually. So people can have a, try before you buy opportunity without being tied in. Definitely growing those partnerships with some of the HR leading providers, especially on the technology side.
It's often said, Rachel, that the first hire for any entrepreneur is the most important one. What advice would you give for anybody that's at the stage now? 74% of businesses in the UK are single person businesses, right? So what advice would you give to any aspiring entrepreneur that's thinking about their first hire?
First of all, do not rely solely on Google. HR consultants, often like myself, will offer some consultation free initially. I've just written a guide on hiring your first employee, which is available on my website for free. But definitely thinking about, do you need an employee? What's actually your business plan? Then what's your people plan associated with that? So if you want 5 employees or 10 employees by X date, well, how is the business going to grow to support that? Because you've got to pay the wages, the pension, any benefits you're going to pay, holiday pay, all those sorts of things you're going to factor in terms of on cost, not just the salary. And it might be that as you're starting out a business, there might be the peaks and troughs, and actually, is a permanent employee actually the right answer initially? Do you try out temporary resource? Do you try out interns, student placements? A lot of the universities have placement students and grants attached to them to fund some of those placements and projects, as well as the associate network as well, and other freelancers that just to really understand. And, particularly if you're a service business, that might be a good route for you. If it's a product-led business, it might be a very, very different story. But definitely make sure you have done your research in terms of like the local market. What's the recruitment market? We know at the moment it's about 1.1 million vacancies out there. Still saying it's a very candidate-driven market. Every sector is pretty much impacted still by those challenges of hiring good talent at the moment. And if you're looking for experienced people, that becomes even harder. Have a look at the marketplace. What's the benchmark out there at the moment? Again, someone like myself, other HR consultants can help you just kind of have a look, and that's the service we offer for free, is what's the market like for that role at the moment? What's the salary level? What's the benefits you'd need to look at to ensure that you're competitive? Reach out, have a chat, see what we can do for you. Definitely lots we can do for free to support you on that journey. But obviously loads of other organisations. I've been supported heavily by the Business and Enterprise Centre in Northamptonshire. And as you will know, there's loads of other organisations that support startups and entrepreneur businesses out there at that very early stage.
Rachel, it's been absolutely brilliant to have you as my guest. Thank you so much for sharing your personal journey, and also for the advice and the words of wisdom that you shared for entrepreneurs as well. It's been great to have you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming on, Rachel. Folks, if you'd like to come and join us on Business Spotlight, we'd love to see you. Come and share your journey just like Rachel has done. Just comment apply below. and we'll get you on, and we'll look forward to interviewing you. Until next time, thanks for joining.